the general theme is how does it feel to be a hypocrite?
Right. Well, he sounds like a royal dirtbag.
I was wrong about something.
Magnificent! Magnificent! Magnificent!
If we can be with ourselves, if we can understand ourselves, we can love.
It's not my fault nobody can understand what you're saying.
Let's go while we're young.
3, 2, 1. Yeah, just introduce yourself and tell me what you ate for breakfast.
Back. Are we here yet? Are we back? All right. It looks like we might actually be on. Good Monday morning. More of these wonderful technology problems, apparently. I guess I don't know. I go through the same ritual every single morning that, I restart everything. I make sure that everything has fresh batteries, all that happy jazz, right? And so some days it works and other days it doesn't. So I think that this is one of those days it doesn't work, but we're here. So righteous anger, we see that the world is an interesting place, and the United States is no exception to that. I've been to around, I think, like 9 or 10 countries in my lifetime. So it's been a very interesting thing to see, kind of what's taking place in our country and how things look either similar or dissimilar or whatever. I haven't been in some really, really terrible locations where I have been in some locations that I have felt very uncomfortable. Stay away from those places at night, but I don't know if any of you who are here right now, there was a YouTuber live streaming in front of the Bellagio Hotel, the fountain and the famous fountain that they have, and was gunned down cold blood. I don't know. This was just hours ago, 4 or 5 hours ago or something. The gunman is still at large. I've been in front of that. I've walked right in that space 4 or 5 times at least. To say these things are somewhere else, or it's not our problem, or whatever else excuse that we use to justify these things, these horrible things that are happening, um, is just it needs to stop, in my opinion. I don't want to like sit here and talk about, say, or maybe even a way to put it is to have anyone think that I'm better than anybody else. I'm not at all, but um I also am. I don't care what your party is, what your religion is. I don't care where you work. I don't care about any of those things. Um, but violence and murder and destruction and whatever else that is completely wrong, 1,000,000%. And we see so often right now that when these things, murder and destruction and all that stuff is happening, that um, it seems that some people think it is justified, and it is just not. And so I saw a whole bunch of things that talked about my anger is a righteous anger and everything that's going on. And so, what is righteous anger? I wanted to dig into it. Um, and this is going to be at least a three-parter here. I did a ton of research last night and yesterday, and changing up the whole kind of idea and what I'm doing. And I know I'm rambling a little bit here on this, but I always said that this morning show was going to be just really from the heart. It was going to be really transparent, really real, and try to be relevant to daily life. And I really think that this is. And so, there's a lot of ways. Righteous anger, of course, is like massive displeasure in feeling in what's going on. And righteous anger is, it's believed to be a moral, justified anger, right? But even more than that, it's generally because it's a perceived injustice that's happening. It's a perceived wrongdoing that's happening, or a perceived violation of like ethical principles. And perception is the thing, because um righteous anger is not objective. It never has been. It never will be from a human standpoint. It can't be. And I think that's such a interesting thing that I want to look at. The other thing is that I'm here not for you. I am here for me. And if you can learn along with me and I can communicate things well enough for you to learn a little bit, that's fantastic. But I dig into these things, and I have these boundaries, and I have these ways of doing things in my life that, A, I'm happy to share. And B, I want to get better and learn more and be a better person today than I was yesterday, be able to fix it faster, be able to, look at it from a different angle or whatever, not be caught up in these echo chambers, not be caught up in all the things that society tries to do. And that is, and when you look at, it doesn't again matter political party or religious, whatever. It there's so many, I'll say it like this, there's so many of them that are trying to either hang on to the power and control that they have, or they're trying to gain more power and control, and therefore we're getting caught up in the middle. And so, we're doing things that are generally out of the norm for us. And so don't get caught up in that, and certainly not from a violent standpoint or whatever, and things. But anyway, to get back on it, we look at its righteous anger as being kind of distinct from like a normal anger, that you're mad about something that maybe is justified or not justified. But then people call it righteous anger to justify that, and it's generally driven by our moral sense of duty or whatever, our sense of moral duty, I suppose I should say it like that. And it's our desire to address harm and oppression and unfairness, and it's we use that term to steer it away from what we perceive as being not selfish. It's not a selfish motivation. So then we label it righteous anger. And I'm going to talk about that a lot over the next 2 days. I'm going to talk about it, what Christianity is kind of from that standpoint. I've been studying it from a philosophy standpoint. Like Aristotle suggested that anger can be virtuous. We talked about, the Stoic virtues. But Aristotle said that it can be virtuous if it's proportionate and directed at the right target. What's the right target? And then modern usage, we look at social justice and all these terminologies and things like that. So on this Monday morning, that's where we're going to kick it off, and I'm going to leave it there. We kind of had problems getting going this morning, so rather than trying to get into something deeper than that, I just wanted to sort of preface it here and things. But I'm going to try to really look at it from an objective standpoint instead of my bias and my subjective standpoint, because of course I have it. I've talked about that a ton. We each have it. If you don't recognize that you have it, you'll never learn anything. You'll always be caught up in something that is just part of your bias and echo chamber. So I'm going to leave it there. Hey, a reminder, I'm not going to do giveaways, certainly not on a regular basis. The budget ran out basically at the end of May. So appreciate you checking out the website and, support. If you don't support me in any fashion, support people who are actually like people, not big organizations or whatever, but $20, $10, talked about students who have Venmo'd me. There's a few of them, and things that, support people, your neighbors or whoever it is, someone across the country, but people who are doing the work, not organizations that are simply trying to gain more leverage and power and finances. So it's very discouraging to see these things that are going on. And I'm going to try to look at it from this perspective of what people are labeling it as righteous anger. So I'll see you tomorrow morning at 6:30. Thanks for joining me.
You know what I just saw?
Who is this guy?
I call myself Podcast because of my podcast.
I have exorcised the demons. This house is clear.
So it's done.
It's done.